Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, managing editor of Canada's podcast, Taking Care of Business today with Franco Terrazzano, who is federal director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Thanks for joining us today, Franco.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Well, it seems these days that we are being taxed to death already, and yet there's more to come in 2024. Let's talk about some of those taxes that are coming, and increased taxes in 2024. First, the payroll taxes, as it concerns the Canada Pension Plan and the employment insurance. Franco, tell us what's happening with those this coming year.
Well, they're going up and quite a bit. Okay. So you might pay up to an extra $347 in payroll taxes in 2024. So that's a pretty big increase, right? But that even downplays just how much in payroll taxes you're going to be paying next year. In total, if you're making about $73,000 or more, your total payroll tax bill next year will be about $5,100. Your employer will also have to fork over about $5,500 next year. So it's a huge payroll tax bill. Every time you get your paycheck, you're going to notice some of the money is not there. And a reason for that big increase of up to $347 is because the government's actually bringing in a second Canada Pension Plan mandatory payment. Okay, so you have the original one like every other year that you have to pay into, but then above the original threshold, the government's adding another tax, and that explains the big increase next year.
Incredible. Okay. Next one, and it's always been, well, not always, but it's been in the news now for a year or so. It's the carbon tax, and controversial subject there. What's happening with that come 2024?
Well, it's a headache, isn't it, right? I mean, the carbon tax is directly inflationary. It increases the price of gasoline, natural gas, diesel. It makes it more expensive when you go to the grocery store because it adds more cost for farmers and more cost for truckers. So in April 1, 2024, the federal carbon tax is going to go up to about, 17 cents per liter of gasoline. It's going to go up to about 15 cents per cubic meter of natural gas, and about, 21 cents per liter of diesel. Now, what does that mean for you, for the average family? Well, the carbon tax is going to cost the average family in 2024 about up to $911 more than what they get back in rebates, right? So you hear the prime minister, you hear some ministers saying, hey, don't worry, everyone, we've got rebates for you. Everything is going to be fine. Well, that's just not the truth, folks. The Parliamentary Budget Officer shows that in 2024-25, next year, essentially, the carbon tax will cost the average family up to $911 more than what they get back in rebates.
All right, here's something that's I'm not too happy about, is the alcohol escalator tax. Tell me what that is.
Okay, first, before we get into that, I just need to point out something about the carbon tax and the payroll tax. It's kind of like a double whammy, folks, right? Because the payroll tax takes money out of your wallet, and then the carbon tax makes it more expensive for what you have left in your wallet to buy, right? So it's almost like a double whammy. You're getting hit at both ends, both less money in your wallet than higher prices at the till. Now, if all of that drives you to drink, more bad news, folks, because in 2024, the Trudeau government's reaching deeper into your pocket every time you want to go enjoy a Labatt Blue or a bottle of Pinot with your better half, or, want to pour a Mickey, want to have a nice glass of rum and Coke, right? The government's going to be reaching deeper into your pocket with a 4.7% alcohol tax hike, April 1, 2024. And remember, folks, you're already paying an arm and a leg. If you want to enjoy that nice microbrew, that nice IPA, about half of that is already taxed.
Okay. So with all these, I don't get it. You know what? I don't get how the average Canadian can survive with all these taxes upon taxes upon taxes.
Yep. Well, what's so crazy about all of this, if you look at the average family, and you're so right, because it's like the layered cost of all these taxes, right? It's like we're taxed to the right, to the left, up and down. We're taxed all over the place. When you add up all the different taxes from all areas of government, levels of government, the average family pays like close to half of its income in taxes. right? So you think about all the money that your family works hard for, you essentially cut it in half. That's the government's take, right? So what's so problematic with that is not only do like taxes like the carbon tax make things more expensive, but when the government takes this exorbitant amount of money away from your pocket, then everything by nature becomes more expensive, right? Because you have less money to actually afford the necessities or to afford to take your family traveling or whatever that you have to do. So not only are taxes like the carbon tax making things more expensive, but this huge tax take from all levels of government are leaving less money in people's pockets, so they have less money to afford everything, essentially.
Yeah. Now we know the impact that has on you, me, and the average Joe and Josephine out there. But I want to talk to you also about the impact it has on business. All right,
Yeah.
like a double whammy here, right? You've got the consumer who has less and less money to spend, so less spending on grocery stores, less spending in retail, etc. That's one hit that the businesses are taking. The other hit, of course, is they too are faced with increasing costs, as you mentioned, the CPP, for instance, and other things. How does especially small business survive in this environment?
Well, it's very difficult. And let's just talk about the three major tax increases that we mentioned. Well, for a worker who makes about $73,000, their small business, their employer also has to fork up about $5,500 next year through these payroll taxes, right? And that could be a big hit for a small business, right? Especially a small business that has gone through a tough time over the last couple of years. So that's how the payroll taxes impact them. Look at the carbon tax. That has a massive impact on our economy and just local businesses as well, right? That makes it more expensive for a small business just to keep the natural gas on during the winter months. Or for a trucking company who has to pay diesel, the carbon tax on diesel, every time they fill up those big rigs to bring everything to the store. Or even for farmers, right? That's a type of business if you think about it in one sense, right? Well, the carbon tax on natural gas and propane is costing Canadian farmers like $1 billion by 2030, right? So it continues to just layer on costs. And one other important thing to remember about the carbon tax is that like 75% of countries do not have a national carbon tax. So think about the competitive disadvantage that the Trudeau government is putting our businesses in with the carbon tax. And last thing, let's look at the alcohol taxes, right? Not only does this mean higher prices for consumers, but it also hurts the small businesses in the tourism industry, whether you own a liquor store or whether you own a restaurant or a bar, you're going to be feeling this pinch from this additional tax hike.
Yeah, exactly. I'm reminded of a song from way back. I don't know if you remember what was the lines were, "We're not going to take it. We're not going to take it anymore." But what can we do?
Well, look,
what can we do?
Well, look, I think Canadians are getting sick and tired from the overtaxing, overspending, inflationary government that seems to be completely out of touch with what average people are going through, right? And you're seeing it in the polls, right? The support for the carbon tax, for example, is plummeted.
Yeah.
Right. But you also see in the polls, like, what are the key issues for so many Canadians right now? It's the affordability issue, and it's the economy, and it's being able to keep your job. So many people are getting sick and tired of this. And look, if the government, like if the administration, the Trudeau government, the Trudeau Liberals, if they don't listen to the people, well, they do so at their own peril, right?
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting election coming. Well, it's a little while away, but it'll be quite interesting. So what do you guys do from your standpoint, the Taxpayers Federation, to combat this?
Well, what we're doing right this second, like as we speak, so let's shift gears ever so slightly to the Alberta government, right? So what did the Alberta government just confirm today? That they're increasing the fuel tax to 9 cents a liter of gas, right? So like we've given the Smith government a lot of kudos on what they've done with taxes in the last little bit. Look, Miss Smith, she's right to take Trudeau to task on the carbon tax, but she's absolutely wrong to be raising the gas tax by 9 cents per liter. And what we just did, as we're speaking, it's literally happening right now, is we just launched a petition no gas tax hike in Alberta. And hopefully we can continue to build a list of taxpayers who demand more accountability, less wasteful spending, no gas tax hike in Alberta. And hopefully we can use that to really put pressure on politicians and to show the Alberta government and all governments that people just can't afford higher taxes.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Franco, for joining us today.
Oh, my pleasure. I hope you have happy holidays, a very Merry Christmas, and a very great New Year as well.
Same to you, my friend. All right, that was Franco Terrazzano, who is the federal director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. I'm Mario Toneguzzi, managing editor of Canada's podcast, Taking Care of Business. Thanks for joining us today.